Trout Routes combine stream maps and river data to help you find fishing access faster. Be confident on the water with fishing access points, real-time stream gauges, and public access, now brought to you by Onyx Maps. Whether you're looking for blue lines, gold medal rivers, or something new in your backyard, Trout Routes has the data to get you on the water fast. Destination Angler podcast listeners can try 1 month of Trout Routes Pro for free by clicking on the link in the episode description. Do what I do and put more access in your hands and explore the water you love with Trout Routes today. This week on the Destination Angler.
Alaska feels completely wild. It is wilderness that is awe-inspiring, and if you were foolish enough not to respect it, it could take care of you in a quick minute. Argentina is an immersion experience in another culture, in another land, but it also, you get to see where one place is complete wilderness. Well, Patagonia is wilderness too, but it feels, I guess, a little more paradisey.
And that was Steve Ramirez on Alaska versus Argentina. Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of the Destination Angler, brought to you by High and Dry Fishing, where science and performance meet, and by Got Fishing, crafting world-class fly fishing adventures specially designed to your level of experience and budget, and by Trout Routes. Coming up on the Destination Angler, we head to New Zealand with legendary guide Tony Entwistle, and then after that, we venture to possibly the most remote destination in the U.S., that's the Brooks Range in northern Alaska, with fisheries ecologist Kevin Fraley. Hey anglers, I'm really excited to share this with you. This January, I'm teaming up with world champion angler Tess Wiegand and our friends at Got Fishing to host a once-in-a-lifetime adventure at Estancia Chochoy Malin. This is a 36,000-acre ranch that's Patagonia, Argentina's newest and most exciting fly fishing destination. Picture 6.5 days of guided fly fishing with exclusive access to 3 private rivers, crystal clear spring creeks, and nearby freestones, all teeming with big wild browns and rainbows that rarely see a fly. At the end of the day, you'll unwind with fine cuisine, world-class wines, and warm Patagonian hospitality that make this trip truly unforgettable. We are keeping the group small, just 6 to 8 people, so everyone enjoys a personalized first-class experience on and off the water. It all happens January 17th through the 24th, 2026. To learn more or reserve your spot, I put a link in the show notes on the Destination Angler Podcast website. Tess and I can't wait to fish with you in Patagonia. And today our destination is not one, but 2 fly fishing meccas that couldn't be more different, Alaska and Argentina. One is raw wilderness, and the other is an immersion experience in rich culture. Which would you choose? Joining me to sort all this out are 2 masters who have lived in both worlds, renowned sporting artist and former guide Bob White, and global fly angler and adventurer Steve Ramirez. He's also author of the acclaimed casting series. Stick around for tales of swimming with piranhas in the Amazon, hooking a brown bear in Alaska, and being schooled by Lefty Kreh. Okay, here we go. Here's my interview with Bob and Steve. Well, hey, folks. Today, we're going to be talking about Alaska and Argentina, 2 premier fly fishing destinations that I think every angler has on their bucket list. But if you're like me, you might be on a limited budget, and a trip like this, may be a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So which do you choose? Well, today we have 2 guys that I think can help us figure this out. We have Bob White joining us today and Steve Ramirez. Bob is an artist, author, and former fly fishing guide who has guided anglers and, of course, with a name like Bob White, wing shooters from Alaska to Patagonia. He's a world-famous outdoor sporting artist with works in private and corporate collections all over the world, and he frequently appears in national publications. He's been guiding Alaska for 40 years and Argentina for 1 year less than that, 39 years. Do I have that right, Bob?
That's correct.
All right. He's in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame as a legendary artist. And man, I tell you, take a look at his website and check out some of his art. You probably have already seen it if you've read some John Gierach books and whatnot. He was Fly Rod and Reels Guide of the Year, Artist of the Year for the Alaska State Parks Foundation. He's contributed cover art, interior illustrations, essays, and cover blurbs for more than 60 fly fishing and outdoor books, including several by John Gierach, and also John's column that was in Trout Magazine, along with several other sporting publications. And he lives in St. Croix, Minnesota. And he hosts annual fly fishing trips to Alaska and Argentina. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Happy to be here.
You bet. Okay, so joining Bob is his good friend, Steve Ramirez. Steve is an avid fly angler, author who's traveled extensively with Bob and probably on his own, fly fishing all over the world, including Alaska and Argentina. And Steve is particularly well known for 4 books he's published with Lions Press, the Casting series, and also for a seasonable angler column in Fly Fisherman magazine. It's a great column. As a matter of fact, Steve, I just read your article on the San Juan River. That was pretty cool. Did you get the fly fishing figured out down there? It sounded like it was a little tricky at first.
I don't know that I ever get the fly fishing figured out, but I got close enough that I was catching fish. So there you go.
There you go. It sounds like you had a pretty good
As
guide.
Bob would say, fish were caught.
Fish were caught.
I had a great guide and I was with great people. Fish were caught.
Yeah. A couple of things jumped out at me. One was you're fishing really deep and you had to do like a full hook set, like you're going back for a cast. That was interesting.
Right.
And the other was that your guide was a federal prisoner who's turned fishing guide and doing great.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, anybody that has read any of my writing knows that I'm not really just writing fishing stories. So there's always some other message coming through the journey. And this one was about redemption. I really am a big believer that people make mistakes and we need to have compassion. As long as that person wants to work hard to have redemption, they should. And this is a great example of a young man that was struggling with some mental health issues, and as a former Marine with my own post-traumatic stress disorder, I understand what that's like. He got himself in trouble with the law in a big way. And fortunately for him, they figured out what was going on with him, but he did serve time in a federal prison. And he came out and from everything I've seen has made his life quite beautiful. And it's a very kind, gentle guide. He was certainly very kind to me.
Yeah. Boy, I love hearing those kind of stories. These people come out of prisons, they need people to hire them. They need to find a way to make a living. They might end up right back in there. All right. And then right now, Steve, I'm reading your book, Casting Onwards. Nice job. I would call it profound, beautiful, and thought-provoking. And I would say that you're an artist as well, only you paint vivid pictures and words. And you just mentioned
I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah.
That's my intention. Exactly.
You're beautiful writing.
In anything that I'm writing, I'm hoping that people feel they're there with me. I'm hoping that they can see and feel the entire experience and that they have emotional and, intellectual reaction to it.
Definitely. I mean, I found you go deep, and like I said, you're profound. So anyway, welcome to the show, guys. Steve, it's great having you. Bob, fantastic. And so today, these guys are going to be sharing their impressions of Alaska and Argentina and life, and I would probably say friendship as well. Bob, I got to ask you, with a name like Bob White, did people give you a hard time about that name?
Well, as a kid, my dad was a bird hunter, so his crowning glory in life was to name me Bob White. But yeah, I mean, I got teased as a kid, but as I got older, I couldn't have picked a better name for what I do.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. I've been hearing about you for years. I used to hunt with a guy a long time back in the 90s, I think. And he was telling me about this artist named Bob White. And we all just got a chuckle out of that you actually do fly fishing and you probably got some paintings of quail too, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Not as many as you might suspect. I don't know why, but I grew up in Southern Illinois quail hunting, but moved to Minnesota after college. So whole new thing up here.
Yeah, how about that? All right, so guys, let's say that I've saved my money or I'm saving my money and I'm ready to pull the trigger on a trip of a lifetime, and I can't decide between Alaska and Argentina. Help me decide. So, Bob, I'll maybe start with you. Give us just your overall impressions of the two places. How would you kind of sum it up? What's the headline there?
Well, I would, if you came to me with that question, I guess I would spend a little time and ascertain what's the most important part of a fishing trip for you. You know, the wow factor, catching lots of fish, big fish, or a cultural experience with good fishing and great food and great wine and interesting people and a different language. They're both, it's a win-win either way. It was just some people, I guess I'd sum it up best by saying that going to Alaska is like being 12 years old and going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Everything is big and beyond comprehension and just a wow around every corner. And going to Argentina is like being 25 years old in a foreign country and at a cafe and meeting some friends and going to theater, maybe going to a party afterwards. They're both great fishing destinations. They're just different in that way.
That's great. Steve, what would you add to that?
Well, first, I would say that what I can bring to this is Bob is the expert who has guided for 40 years in these places, and I am the person who would be like a lot of the people you're speaking of right now, who a trip to Argentina or Alaska is probably once in a lifetime. And I would start off the same way Bob was, is try to learn more about them and what they most love. They are both win-wins, and that sounds like a cop-out, but it's not. But I'm going to tell you some differences I felt. Alaska feels completely wild. It is wilderness that is awe-inspiring, and if you were foolish enough not to respect it, it could take care of you in a quick minute.
Wow.
So it's an awe-inspiring, wild experience. Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The other thing I love, and I would not want to go to Alaska again if I don't get to do this again, is I love float planes. There's a whole feeling of adventure to Alaska, and I found that true both in Southeast Alaska in a different way, and then up around Bristol Bay, and where I think Bob, of course, nailed it. Argentina is an immersion experience in another culture, in another land, but it also you get to see where one place is complete wilderness. Well, Patagonia is wilderness too, but it feels, I guess, a little more paradisey.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you've got monkey puzzled trees and crystal clear water and parrots flying through the trees, and then you go back and have asado and a glass of Mendoza wine. They both have their charms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you have actually fished from a float plane. Do I have that right?
Yes, fish didn't catch, but fish were caught. But yes, I've fished from the pontoon of a float plane.
Well, how did that happen? How'd that come about?
Well, I was with interesting, colorful guide, and I was with another gentleman, and we were catching lake trout on a big lake out in the middle of Alaska that we flew into. And the guy I was with said, I bet there's a really big one out in the middle. If only we could get out to the middle. And that's when the pilot said, well, you know what? It's all getting a plane. And he, taxied out to the middle of the lake, turned off the engine, and said, okay, fish.
Really?
So we
Is that
used the
right?
plane as a boat. We used the plane as a boat. Each one of us got on a pontoon. He held on
Yeah,
and fished, and we both hooked fish.
there you go.
So, but that monster that he dreamed of was elusive.
That's neat. All right, so Bob, where have you guided in Alaska and in Argentina?
Oh boy, in Alaska, I know Southwest Alaska like the back of my hand, around Dillingham, out to the Togiak Wildlife Refuge and Wood Tick Chick State Park. I haven't really spent much time outside of that area, so you could put me in a plane and let me fall asleep and fly somewhere and wake me up and have me look down and tell you where we're at, what's the name of that creek, and I could probably tell you.
Yeah.
But outside of that area, very little experience in Alaska.
So I had you guiding at Bristol Bay Lodge. Is that right?
I've started guiding at Golden Horn Lodge and then moved to Chick Chick Narrows Lodge. Spent 7 seasons at Golden Horn, and I currently host a week and do some light guiding at Royal Coachman Lodge. But they are all within the Bristol Bay, what you would call the Bristol Bay area, all located in the Wood Tick Chick State Park.
Okay, very good. And what about in Argentina?
Argentina, I've been around a bit more, south to Esquel and Teca, and north past the town of Illuminae, but mostly in and around the San Martin de los Andes and Junín de los Andes area. So big rivers would be the Illuminae, Cojuncora, Lemay, and then small streams. My favorite is the Majeo River, and that's where I kind of hang my hat when I'm down there now.
Majeo. Okay, how about that? And going back to Alaska, what are the species you're going after?
Oh boy, that's kind of the Disney World aspect of Alaska. Is there are 12 different species that you can catch. If you're there at the right time, you've got a good shot at catching all 12. So those include the 5 Pacific salmon, kings, chum, pinks, sockeye, and silvers. And then you've got lake trout, Arctic char, Dolly Varden, grayling, rainbow, northern pike. And then if you hop up north a little bit to the Holitna River, sheefish.
Sheefish. Wow.
Yeah.
How far north? Is that Brooks Range stuff or?
No, not quite that far.
Okay.
The Holitna would be the closest. It's probably an hour north of the lodges I worked at.
Huh. Okay. We got a show coming up on the Brooks Range and sheefish.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I first came across liquid fly dip floatants years ago when guides were mixing their own brews with lighter fluid and mucilin wax. You know, it worked, but you had to wonder, what's it doing to the river? Recently, I tried some store-bought brands. One left a white crust on my fly, another left an oil slick in the water. Not good. No way I'm using that stuff. Then I found High and Dry, and let me tell you, this stuff is a game changer. It's built by scientists who actually fly fish, and it shows. Your fly floats like a cork, looks natural, and it's 100% environmentally friendly. No film, no gunk, no gilt. And their floatants work in any condition, from blazing heat to freezing cold. In my opinion, these are the best performing, most innovative floatants on the market today, hands down. So check out the full lineup of liquid floatants, line dressings, and cider waxes at highanddryfishingproducts.com. Your fly and the fish will thank you. Here's Brian Oakland, founder of Got Fishing.
There's really no reason for an angler not to use Got Fishing when everything we do for you is free. We have the best trips around the world. We only work with the best outfitters, and we're definitely going to get you the best deal and the best dates guaranteed. That's why we have clients come back time and time again. We have Don with us on this trip. This has been his 6th fishing adventure with Got Fishing, and I think if you asked him, it is because of all the little things. We don't tell people, we ask questions. What is it that you're looking for? What would be most important to you? Who's coming with you? What's your experience level? And really at the end of the day, what is the most important aspect of this experience that you're looking to take home? And then from there, we just marry them up with some of the best lodges, let them take a look at 2 or 3 different options and pick what's going to be best for them.
Well, there you have it, folks. A pretty good case for choosing Got Fishing for your next big adventure. So what are you waiting for? Give Brian a shout or visit gotfishing.com. And what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite species to go after in Alaska?
Oh boy, I think if I had to pick, it would be, it's going to sound silly, people are going to laugh, but I would say Arctic grayling would be my favorite. Yeah, I mean, I think they get maligned as like, I've heard them called sunfish of the north or bluegill of the north, and people think they're real easy, and they can be, but they can also be pretty fussy. And they're good fighters, and they take dry flies. And if you like to fish technical dry flies, you know, nymphs and emergers and in tiny dries. If you like that sort of thing, that they can be a real challenge and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Steve, what would you add to that? I know you're a grayling fan as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we kind of had this conversation, and grayling is my first choice. It was my first choice when I got off the plane, and they said, "What do you want to do? We've got a few hours before we have dinner." And I said, "Let's go get grayling," and we did. And by choice, my first day, we went out to an area and caught grayling. And then on my last day, Bob and I decided we were going to head out to the same spot, catch more grayling to finish off the week, and have a half day, then go back to the lodge together while everybody else was still out. Because even though Bob has caught so many more fish than I ever have, we both caught as much fish as we need to catch, probably. And we went back to the lodge, and it was a magical time for me because I was writing the book Casting Homeward while Bob was painting. We were both doing our artwork while staring out at the mountains, and
Huh.
you can't beat that. So grayling is my number one there for Alaska as well, and I guess after that maybe Dolly Varden.
Huh. That's fascinating. So, Bob, were you actually painting something that's in this book that I'm reading, this Homeward book?
I've done the illustrations in all of Steve's books, the interior decoration. The covers, of course, are photographs, but I've illustrated and done a lot of interior work in other books as well. So
That's
it's just kind of
fascinating.
what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll come back to that. Okay, let's go down to Argentina. So, what's the predominant species down there? I think a brown trout, but there's great rainbow fishing down there too, isn't there?
Sure. Yeah, the area in Argentina where I guide, well, first of all, there are no salmonids native to the southern hemisphere.
Right.
So all of the trout and salmon that you hear about in Chile and Argentina and Tasmania and Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, even Africa in Kenya, those are all introduced from the northern hemisphere. The rainbows were from the McCloud River, and they went to Argentina in 1909, I believe, 1904, perhaps. The browns came from both Germany and Scotland in the 20s.
Yeah.
Basically, it's interesting. See, what they did is they just took about every game fish in the northern hemisphere and threw it into the water and down there, and they just let them sort themselves out. So
Hmm.
you've got some rivers that whose origins are mountain lakes that have a lot of bait fish, and the landlocked Atlantic salmon have done very well there.
Yeah.
There are other rivers, the brown trout seem to be dominant, are both browns and rainbows. Oddly enough, the brook trout seem to do best in lakes, and I don't know why that is, but if you want to catch brook trout in Argentina, at least in the area I'm at, I know there are other spots, but you would want to fish some of the high mountain lakes.
Ah, high mountain lakes. Okay. Interesting. And Steve, you have fished all through Argentina as well, right? How far south have you gotten?
I went down to El Calafate area where Jurassic Lake is. Its real name is Lake Strobel, but Jurassic Lake is so much more
Yeah.
interesting. And that's as far south as I've been. And it's also a truly amazing and different area of Patagonia, very different from the Majeo.
Yeah.
So I can expound on how it's different.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So when you get to El Calafate, and when I got down there, I thought to myself, and of course I'm arriving at the best time of the year, but I thought I could live here for the rest of my life. That's what I thought when I saw that little town. It is basically like a little ski town. It's for hikers and skiers and mountain climbers, and it's a mixture of cafes and coffee shops and breweries and pizzerias.
Really?
And off in the distance, you can see the Andes Mountains and the glaciers, and up close, you can see the largest lake in Argentina. But then there's a basically 5 hour drive to get to Jurassic Lake, and of which is on the famous Route 40. And about 2.5 hours of that, you're on pavement going through the open high plains, I guess you would call it, past hundreds of guanaco, and I did see one condor. And Then the road disappears and it's dirt for the next 2.5 hours, so it's a really interesting experience. And then the lake is another really, really unique place, very primal,
Huh. And large fish, right?
very large fish,
Yeah.
frighteningly so. I mean, you just cannot believe those are trout. Or
Yeah.
I couldn't
Really?
anyway.
That is
So
amazing.
yes, they're just lurking there like they're waiting to eat someone's kitten.
Yeah. Or you, if you fall in.
Right.
Did you fish the river? Because I know there's a river that inflows there. Did you get down to that?
Yes. Actually, I wrote a whole chapter about it in this book that's the next book that's coming out. And that was quite an adventure on the Rio Brancoso. I'm probably saying it wrong, which is one of the main river that goes into Jurassic Lake through a long, twisting canyon that has steep sides and huge boulders. Or as my friend down there, Lucho, explained it to me, he said, "We're going to walk a few miles and climb over some rocks." Well,
Yeah.
it's not just climbing over some rocks. It's not just a few miles.
It's an
So,
understatement.
but that river is dramatic, gorgeous, very wild, crystal clear, fast, full of really big trout, covered in wildflowers. And I probably drove them nuts because I spent as much time taking pictures of wildflowers as I did fishing. But it's also challenging, just so anybody knows. It's physically challenging.
Yeah. I didn't know
And
that. Didn't know that about that river.
yes, it's quite a journey. It's a true adventure in every way.
So, Bob, where else have you fished? I'm thinking it's such a huge country, right? There's thousands of miles up in north and south.
I mean, beyond the trout fishing, golden dorado are an amazing species to fish for in South America generally, but in Argentina, I think the golden dorado has the largest distribution of any fish in South America.
Huh?
I think that's accurate.
I didn't
So
know
you
that.
find them in Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. You can find them in the canals in Buenos Aires, actually. So just not trout, but that's my primary experience in Argentina is with trout.
Okay. What time of year do you go to Argentina and what time of year do you go to Alaska? I know it varies depending on what species you're going after, but give us your thoughts there, Bob.
Well, it works out perfectly for a ne'er do well like me because I can guide in Alaska in the summer, and I would typically leave Minnesota in May and mid-May, and it's about 3 weeks to set the lodge up for guests, and then the season is from early June until October, and then it takes 3 weeks to set it up, and it takes 3 days to break it down.
Really? Three
Like
weeks.
a
What are
lot
you
of things in
doing?
life, right?
3 weeks. What are you doing for 3 weeks?
Oh, setting up the lodge in the spring?
Yeah.
Well, there's always a building project. Somebody will add on to a cabin, or we'll build a cabin, or add a bathroom here, or and then fix winter damage to roofs and to sheds, and all the plumbing had to be drained and blown out, so that all has to be reconnected, and it's a sure bet that somebody forgot to drain something in their bursted pipes, and then you're hauling in a season's worth of groceries and fuel, and anything that you experience at that lodge comes there by float plane or by boat, depending on the lodge. So it's a slug. We're ready for the guests to arrive so we can stop working and have fun.
Yeah, right. You want that to end, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's a hard work. It's a 16-hour day for 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah,
And what time of year is this then?
like mid-May to early June,
Okay. And
and
then,
then we typically we're wrapped up by early October.
okay. And your favorite time of year is when?
Oh gosh, I really, again, I like the kind of technical fly fishing. So some of the rivers I guided, believe it or not, are the fish are eating bugs, and you're fishing caddis and mayflies and emergers and nymphs, and that happens I'd say from late June until mid July.
Oh, tight. Tight little
Yeah.
window there.
Yeah. Well, and then you see, then the sockeye starts showing up, and the trout are focused on salmon eggs while they're there, and then on eating flesh from the salmon that die when they pass.
Would you tie up a flesh fly? What's your favorite flesh fly?
Oh, oh boy. A friend of mine, Matt Potter, designed a fly that he called what was it? I think it was the Nushagak special or something like that. But yeah, it was just basically, bunny fur with some white and ginger bunny fur with a little bit of flash, and nothing too fancy. Yeah, there's flesh flies. Depending on the pressure, the fish can be really naive, or they can be pretty savvy about what they choose to put in their mouth.
Yeah, the best time to go to Argentina. What do you think?
So it's a reverse season because of the opposite hemisphere. So the season starts in mid-November, which is their spring, and then ends in end of April, which is their autumn. I like early season because the desert is in bloom. The colors are incredible. The fish are coming off a winter of, no pressure. So, they tend to be a lot more willing to play the game. And the springtime hatches are nice. And then I like summertime too, end of January into early February. The hatches are maybe a little less prolific, but you've added terrestrials. So you're fishing a lot of hoppers and cicadas and beetles and ants and inchworms and, all of those terrestrial flies. So the days are long and, evenings are soft. It's a little bit like fishing in Shangri-La.
Ah, okay. Well, tell me about the people down there in Argentina. Like, are their philosophies and approaches to fly fishing different than ours?
Well, I don't, there isn't a historical fly fishing tradition in Argentina that goes back very far. When I first got down there in the mid 80s, there were Argentine fly fishermen like Baby Anchorena and Prince Razabuil and several others. But the Americans came down and they really, Haig Brown was commissioned by an airline, I don't remember which, to go down in the 50s and write a fishing report, which he turned into a book called A Fisherman's Winter. And then people like Billy Pate and Joe Brooks and other famous Americans, Kurt Gowdy, came down and really introduced a lot of technique and equipment and styles of fly fishing that the local Argentine fishermen just didn't have exposure to.
Ah,
Yeah.
so are they fishing the same way we are? They're indicator fishing, they're fishing Patagons and occasionally tight lining and doing all the
Yeah.
stuff we do?
Yeah. Oh, it's all, I mean, it's all, everything's up to date and the techniques are all the same now. In the early days when I got there, for example, no one in Argentina really fished a nymph under an indicator or fished a nymph upstream. Nymph fishing was just swinging a nymph like a wet fly, like a soft tackle. And boy, it was an eye opener for my outfitter friends who invited me down to help them to watch what could be done with a nymph and an indicator and a riffle. It was, really kind of mind blowing for them.
Yeah.
But everything is done now. Everything is, up to date.
Huh. Interesting. How would you say Alaska's changed over the 40 years you've been going there?
That's a great question. The fishing is as good or better than it's ever been. I wouldn't say the quality of the fishing has changed, but the techniques have changed. The fish have, believe it or not, a lot of the fish in Alaska see a lot of pressure, and they become pretty savvy and pretty wise to the way of fly anglers. So the fishing is just as good, but you have to adapt and take those fish seriously now. In the old days when I started, I had 4 flies in my box. I had a number 10 Royal Wolf. I had a black woolly booger, a hare's ear, and a Bitch Creek nymph. And if the fish weren't biting, you just put split shot on and got it down deeper. And you used, 10 10-pound maxima for tippet. And now some of those same rivers, you're fishing 5 and 6X and midge pupa and cripples and emergers, and you really have to play the game. So it's more rewarding for me now than it was in the old days, but it's a little more difficult for a beginner than it used to be.
I mean, if I found a float playing guy, could I get away from the crowds? I mean, it's such a huge area, Alaska. I gotta believe there's rivers and streams I can go to where I'm not going to be bumping into people.
Well, when I got up there in the 80s, that was the thought, was that if you wanted to experience, wild wilderness Alaska, you got in a float plane. But the truth of the matter is that if you can land there, anyone else can. So I don't think, a float plane will certainly give you a wider variety of places to fish. I don't know that they're going to be any more remote or private than anything else. If you really want to experience remote Alaska these days, what you want to do is you want to fish at a lodge where they've got leases with the native corporations or with the like the state park or the national wildlife refuge, and they're the only operator allowed to fish in this particular stretch of the river or on this river. That, or you find a lodge where you fly in and land on a strip and you fish by boat every day. And
Yeah.
a lot of those rivers just aren't deep enough or big enough for float planes to land on. So the only people that you're going to see on those rivers are the people from the lodge.
Okay, and switching to Argentina, how have you seen Argentina? We talked a little bit about this earlier as far as techniques go, but how else have you seen Argentina change over the 40 years?
Well, the infrastructure has caught up with the resource. I think, anytime there's a new great spot to fish, you're going to go down and the lodges and the guides and the infrastructure in the fishing business is going to be just starting out, maybe not what you're used to, but that's all changed now. Where there used to be 1 or 2 or 3 lodges in an area, now there's a dozen. And where there used to be blow up rafts because nobody built drift boats in Argentina or brought them down, now guides have the usual drift boats that we see out in Montana or Idaho. And the fish have certainly been more pressure, or have more pressure now than they used to.
Yeah.
I would say that they're not as naive as they used to be, but again, no less rewarding, and I enjoy that challenge. So it's all good for me.
Is it? I've heard Argentina is not that crowded. Would you agree?
It depends. It depends on. So all the water in Argentina is public by law, but access is the issue. So if we're fishing at on a ranch that has 40,000 acres and 20 miles of river running through it, and there's one public road that crosses the river, you're going to find 4 or 5 cars pulled off at the parking spot, and it's legal for them to fish in the river as far as they can walk. But we just, when I'm down there fishing, we just leave that to those folks, and then we go up the ranch road 4 miles or 2 miles and then hop in, and we never see anybody.
So it's worth paying a little extra to go to a ranch so you have some private water, essentially.
Or again, if you've got, some outfitters have permission from ranches and landowners to fish their water. So there are plenty of outfitters down there that fish very remote water that can only be accessed by helicopter, for example.
So cost-wise, how do Alaska and Argentina compare?
I would say that it's pretty much the same. Actually, I think Alaska is probably a little higher, but the travel is less to get there. And Argentina's less, but the travel costs more to get there. So it's, at the end of the day, the ticket's probably about the same.
Interesting. Now, you guys, how did you two meet? Steve and Bob, how did you all meet?
I'll turn that over to
Bob loves to answer that question.
Yeah.
He always says, Steve and I met on the internet.
Uh-oh, dating app.
I knew of Bob Bob way before we became friends, obviously, and admired his artwork and his writing way before we became friends. But for those of you, I'm going to embarrass you now, Bob, because you'll have to get over it. Those of you who don't know Bob White, he's about as generous a man as you ever meet. And I remember the day that he was following some of my writing, and he reached out and he said, I'll provide some art for that. And he meant as a gift to support me. And we end up just becoming friends and fishing together and traveling together. And I'll simply say that it's been one of the best, wonderful friendships of my life. And I apologize, Bob, that I just haven't left you alone.
Yeah.
so no, yeah, but that's Bob. When they ask him, he gets a little gleam in his eye and says, Steve and I met on the internet.
Oh my gosh.
He was seeing through social media, he was seeing some stuff that I was writing, and I was obviously seeing. And I'll share this. I remember the first time I flew up and spent some time with Bob and Lisa at their home. Such an honor. And since then, we've done so much together. But Lisa didn't realize this, but she said, Steve, would you go up to the studio and get such and such for me? And I said, sure. So I went over to the studio and I went to get such and such, but I took a while to get back because I just stood there where Bob's sitting right now. And I felt like I was in some really special cathedral among the art and the paint. And our friendship has grown since then. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah. How about that? I know you wrote in your book that you've met some of the best people standing in a river. I think that's kind of interesting.
I have. And just in the nick of time, I'll have to tell you, because if we were just to look at the news, as they call it, we would think the world was just a terrible place, but it's not. Through fly fishing or walking in nature, but mostly through fly fishing, I have met the best people of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, my buddy Bob's at the top of that list.
You also wrote in this book I'm reading that no one is as empty as someone who is full of themselves. They are so often standing in the water you should be casting towards. That's so true. You're like, dude, you're walking right through the hole. Thanks a lot. Right. And I read this. This is really profound. It says, like the word love, people seem to toss the word friend around without thought or considered meaning. I don't. For me, a friend is someone I trust, value, respect, and care for deeply. For me, love is unconditional and eternal. I never understand how people can turn friendship or love on and off like a spigot. For me, like a river, it flows, even when sometimes it is seemingly invisible. Say more about that.
It's really important to me. I think I really appreciate that you mentioned that for me, words are the way I paint. I think words matter, and or at least they should. So anybody that's read any of my books knows that my life prior to the one I have right now, which I love, was a lot of dealing with the worst of humanity, a lot of violence, a lot of death. And what I learned each day was how important it was to not hold back on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my family and my friends every day, I love you, and I mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. I wake up every morning and I say I'm grateful. And before I go to sleep, I say I'm grateful. I actually do that out loud. But having traveled and lived around the world, I love my home country. And I mean that. But I've learned that there are places in the world where there's more community and where people don't shy away from saying, I love you or you're my friend. And they don't throw it around. And you can say thank you without getting as a response. I really would, in my writing, I'm hoping people will pick up that what we say to each other and what we mean matters. It even matters about how we treat the rivers. I mean, if we say I hear people say all the time, I love the outdoors. I love the outdoors. And I'm thinking, well, why'd you throw the beer can in the bushes?
Yeah.
If you love the outdoors.
Yeah.
So to me, these things matter. So if I tell someone, and Bob's going to laugh here because I've told him and Lisa this, it's one of my standards for people I really care about. I said, I'd fight zombies for you. And I would fight zombies for him. Now, when I was 24, that actually meant something when I said I'd fight zombies for you. And now I'm 64. It means a little less, but I'll go down and fight zombies for my friends.
Yeah.
It's not a casual thing, and maybe it'll drive people nuts when they say, "Let's get together sometime." My next response is, "When you want to do that?"
Yeah. Let's
So
go fight some zombies.
let's go fight some zombies. Yeah.
So Bob, all right, so all this time you spent in Argentina, I'm curious, have you developed some friendships with some of the folks down there?
Oh my goodness. When I went down, I was 27 years old, and I was introduced to a family, the Olson family.
Hmm.
And I didn't, my Spanish was very limited, and I had practiced, what I knew in my head on the way to the ranch. And we met, and Carmen, the matriarch, introduced herself, and in my Spanish, I said, "Hi, my name is Roberto Blanco." And she she looked at me, she looked at me, and she got this little hint of a smile, and she said, "You mean your name is Bob White?"
Yeah. Perfect English. Yeah.
And she swept me up in her apron, and that family took me under their wings. And I tell people, and it's not hyperbole, when I go back every year, it's like going home for Christmas. It just has that feeling for me. It's just magical being a part of that family. So that's a very long way of saying yes. I've made some lifelong friends, and some of the guides that I used to guide with back in the mid '80s are the guys that guide our groups, and we take them down these days. So I've known some of these kids, these guys, before they were married. Some of them when they were in their teens, and now they own ranches, and they own outfitting businesses, and some of them still guide. And it's just wonderful for me to go back and be surrounded by
Yeah.
that much love.
Huh. So you mean it's about the people, huh?
Indeed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
How about that? Steve, if I could go back to something you said earlier, because I'm sure people are wondering, you said you witnessed a lot of violence. I know you're a police officer. Do I have that right? For a while, was it there or in the Marine Corps?
The answer to that's yes.
Okay. All right.
So, so I was a U.S. Marine, mostly in a unit that doesn't exist anymore called Africa Corps, and did dignitary protection and counterterrorism operations. And after that, I was a Texas Master Peace Officer for 30 years. But most of the time, I wasn't doing the traditional policing function. I did a lot of counterterrorism. My master's degree is in adult training and education. So I was really involved in police and military training for counterterrorism, counter bomb, homeland security. And I was also a professor of homeland security, criminal justice,
Really?
and counterterrorism. So yeah, my background, I spent 35 years armed with 1 to 3 weapons every day of my life.
My goodness. How did you get interested in writing?
I've always been a writer. I didn't plan to spend my life doing what I did. Someone once wrote, "Life happens to us while we plan." So I wanted to be in the outdoors and in nature from the time I was a kid. And I've been writing since I was a kid. So I have to write to breathe.
To breathe.
With that said, life just takes you aside. And 1979, when the U.S. Embassy was taken over in Iran, I joined the Marines.
Ah.
And just like some of my trainees, my students joined at 9/11. So, and one thing led to another when I came back from overseas, and I won't spend much time on this because we're talking about fly fishing, but when I came back from overseas, this is post Vietnam, but not too far past it. And the attitude still was that nobody wanted to hire you. I actually was in an interview in a suit and tie with a nice resume and a top secret clearance, and I was told, "This is all very nice, but we don't hire killers around here."
Huh.
So the only people who wanted me were the police.
Huh.
So I was kind of forced back into carrying a weapon to make a living, and then I messed up. I was good at it, so
Man.
I kept getting promoted. So that's the short and long of it. But
How about that?
I think when we deal with hardship in life, we can turn it any way we want, and you can either become bitter and closed, which happens with a lot of people, or you can become more compassionate. And the second one is my choice.
Right. I wanted to read something out of your book again. that I thought was really interesting. I imagine God is an outdoor enthusiast like me. I love that. If anything was made in his image, it must be rivers. They too have no real beginning or end. They live on the land in several seasonal forms and in the sky as mostly invisible members of the holy trinity of water, vapor, and ice. They too are eternal, ever changing yet unchanged. Where in the world? I mean, that's really neat. How do you come up with that kind of stuff? Does this just come to you as you're taking a shower one day or
Actually, as you're figuring out, I'm very strange. I write the way I think and see the world. I write in poetry and metaphor,
huh,
and that's the way I actually see the world.
yeah.
And actually, you had said earlier to me before we started here about asking about something I wrote in a book, and I'd say I made the joke of I hope I can remember that I wrote it because often when I go into writing a story,
Hmm.
I am almost in a zone, I guess I'll call it. And I can write an entire chapter or an essay for my Fly Fisherman magazine column. And at the end of it, I can go back and reread it and think, wow, did I write that?
Huh.
Because I just let it flow and edit later.
Do you find your creativity is increased or decreased as you've gotten older?
Increased.
Increased.
Yes. And I think it's not the years, it's the mileage, the life experience, the struggle, the getting through the struggle helps you to really illuminate the joy of it all. Yeah.
Hmm.
And Bob knows that he's a highly skilled, knowledgeable angler. I am not. I can get very, very excited over a very small fish.
Yeah.
I approach it like I'm a 6-year-old, not a 64-year-old. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Hang on. I got to read something on that. You also wrote in this book, when I do take a rare photo of a fish, I'm never intending to say, look what I got, but rather, look who I met. I love that. I've never heard of
yeah.
that. So, uh, so when you're fishing, you're thinking, oh, look at this guy. Are you thinking, what? Who I met? How does that work in your mind?
Well, first of all, if any of you've seen the movie Mending the Line, my first book, Casting Forward, and my words and part of my character in that movie. And I bring that up because there's a scene where the one of the lead actors, Brian Cox, catches a fish and he bends over and he says thank you before he turns it loose. Well, that
Mm-hmm.
was taken from me.
Mm.
I do that. And in Argentina, I say gracias pesca, and in Brazil, I say obrigado. But I try to remember that these things are alive. And I've written another part of a book that when we talk about keeping them wet and all that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I've I've killed fish and eaten them too. I've had shore lunches. But when I know I'm going to try to keep a fish alive, I remember that I'm asthmatic. I know what it's like to gasp for air.
Huh.
So I if you look in my books, you'll notice like Casting Homewards, the one I think you're reading from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I never say I caught it. I say I caught him or her.
Mm-hmm.
I set her free. I think it's important for us to see that. That's why I love catching bass because they have attitude. They're usually glaring at you like, "How dare you?" And then they smash you
Yeah.
in the face with some river water on their way past. I
All
love
right.
attitude. So yeah, I think there's more to it.
Huh.
If you just are counting numbers, it could get awfully boring in a hurry. I think it's really important. I remember that fish.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the fish I caught with Bob, the various fish I caught with Bob, and they have meaning to me when we were in Argentina together.
Mm-hmm. Bob, let's talk
Yes,
about
sir.
art for a minute here. Boy, I tell you, I'm just super impressed by what I see, and obviously the world is too. You've won a lot of awards and getting a fair price for your paintings. What got you going on painting, particularly all this outdoor stuff?
Oh boy. Well, when I was a kid, my nose was in all the outdoor magazines of the time, Sports Afield and Outdoor Life, Field and Stream. And back then, a lot of the stories were illustrated with artwork. And what photography there was back then was, grainy and pixelated, and it looked like newspaper photography. So the stories, while the stories, I found the stories compelling, it was the artwork that I found transformative. And I would go out fishing or hunting, and then I'd come back and I'd want to capture and communicate, what I just done.
Hmm.
And I always wanted to be that guy who, illustrated the magazine covers or the books or the stories in the magazines. And I really never had a plan to do that, Steve.
Really? Is that
No, I
right?
didn't. I mean, I was in high school. I straddled that sharp high fence between being an athlete and an art student. And in college, I studied art, but my senior year decided that I liked to eat on a regular basis, and so
Yeah.
I started panicking about how am I going to make a living, and I thought art history, but that's an even harder way to make a living. Art therapy, dance therapy. I choreographed some dances and did a lot of different things, but it was the art therapy that that really kind of stuck with me. I kind of enjoyed the therapy part of it. So I decided to go into family counseling and individual
Huh.
psychotherapy and group counseling. So that's what I did out of college.
Oh, cool. Were you trained as an illustrator?
No,
You weren't.
I just always painted, and my dad brought me home. John Nagy was an artist back in the '60s, and he had
Sure.
these like painting kits and drawing kits and how to draw this and how to draw perspective. And my dad brought me home one of those, and boy, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. I just
Yeah.
took.
Mm.
And I think like any little kid, you do something and you get a pat on the back from your dad or your
Yeah.
mom, you do more of it.
More encouragement. How did you get so good at drawing people?
Well, thank you for saying that. I don't feel like I don't feel like that's my strong game.
You're good. You're very good. It's very
But
good.
if I were to win the lottery, I'd probably find a world-renowned portrait painter and ask to study under him or her for a year,
Yeah.
just to become good at that. But
Well, portraits are kind of the hardest thing, aren't they? Because everybody knows it either looks like the guy or it doesn't.
and it's the tiniest little mark that can make it look or good or bad. But yeah, I just started painting, and I think there was a period in my life when I was illustrating. I was on the masthead of 5 different magazines, and so I had to learn that it didn't really matter if I felt creative today. I had an editor that needed an illustration next week, and it had to be done. And so I really got good at not monkeying around, not wasting time.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. People will ask, "Well, how long does it take you to do a painting
Hmm.
like that?" And I mean, it might be a day,
Yeah.
might be a
Do you
week.
feel like some paintings paint themselves?
Oh yeah, the best paintings paint themselves.
Hmm.
The best paintings occur when I try to divorce myself and my ego from it and just act as a conduit.
Your ego. Say more about that. What do you mean your ego? How's your ego in it?
Oh, well, I mean, my best paintings are my ego's not in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I'm not trying to make it look exact. I don't care about, I don't care that it's not photographic. In fact, I prefer it not being these days, but it
Right.
took me a while to divorce myself from what I call the tyranny of detail, where
Yeah.
you're trying to make everything look photographic. It's interesting. I have a lot of friends who are photographers, and when somebody wants to compliment me as an artist, they'll say, "Boy, that looks just like a photograph."
Yeah. You probably hate that,
But
don't
when I
you?
want to compliment my friends who are photographers, I'll say, "Man, that photograph is really painterly."
Oh, really? Do you like it when people say it looks like a photograph? I'm an artist too, not like you, but I don't like that because I don't want it. But just take a picture.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I understand what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say. They're trying to give me a compliment, but
Right.
that's not what I'm really trying to do. Is make anything look like photograph.
So when you were a kid, you were trying to communicate what you just did. What would you say you're trying to communicate now?
I really love reflected color and light. So I love painting landscapes. I think, landscapes that capture reflected color and light. So, nocturnes, I love nocturnes.
Nighttime paintings.
Yeah, or evenings, soft, low
Hmm.
light. That's kind of what I love to do. I think as I get older, the people become less of the subject in my painting, and the landscape becomes more
Hmm.
of the subject in my painting.
Do you paint from photographs?
I do. I do. I use my camera like a sketchbook. So I've got files. They used to be in ring binders on my bookshelves. Now they're in files in my computer
There you
of
go.
just files of skies or stormy skies or water, streams, lakes, fish, close-ups of fish,
Yeah.
weather, atmosphere. But as a guide, I couldn't really take the time. My job was to put people on fish and keep them happy,
Yeah.
and that's what I did. I didn't have time to sketch but I did have time to take photographs, and
Do
so
you sketch now? Like if you have a photograph, do you still draw it first or you just dig right in
oh,
and start painting?
absolutely,
You draw it first.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Do you do like a kind of a black and white no tan first, or you just go right in and do?
A lot of times I'll do it drives Lisa crazy because she thinks I should be using better paper, but a lot of times I'll just take brown craft paper and a Sharpie and
Yeah, draw it out.
and just kind of get a feel for what I want to accomplish in this painting. And I think she'd prefer if I did it on something that was a little more saleable than
Yeah, right. Because you could sell those. What do you
yeah,
learn from
maybe.
drawing? Like, why draw it first? What do you learn from that?
Oh, I think, well, it makes me familiar with, I guess it's kind of a roadmap for me. It tells me that this is going to work or this is not going to work. I should have taken a left here when I took a right. Don't worry so much about the detail.
Yeah,
Focus on getting the values right.
yeah. The values, the lights and the darks for people that don't
Yeah,
paint. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Do you move things around from the photograph to which you actually paint?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My my artwork is not subjugated by the photography. It's just a tool, something to look at to
Yeah.
stimulate my mind. But no, I might use if I have an interesting figure of a fisherman, standing and studying his fly box, I might use that for the figure, and I might use a different stream, or it might be evening instead of morning. Kind of depends on what I'm trying to accomplish.
But I think that's hard to do because you got to make all the lighting come together. I think that's really hard to do.
I think when you do something a lot and
Yeah,
it's important to you, I think you just get good at it. People as a writer or an artist or a photographer, people say, "Boy, I wish I had been born with that talent." And my internal response is, I've spent 40 years developing this
yeah.
talent.
I
I
kind
wasn't
of worked
born
at
with
this. Yeah,
it.
this wasn't easy.
If I played golf 8 hours a day for 40 years, I'd probably be pretty good at
Yeah. Well, I tried that for a while, not that long, but I just never got good at golf. So I don't play golf anymore.
it.
And I noted your palette is fairly muted too. I'm curious how what's on your palette? What colors do you have?
Oh boy, fewer and fewer as the years go by.
Uh-huh.
I paint, every manufacturer has a different ultramarine blue, for example.
Sure.
And so I've found, some of my paints are from one manufacturer, some are from others. But basically I'm painting with red, yellow, black. I don't
Black.
use, yeah,
Really? Black.
yeah. Well,
Huh.
yeah, I don't have a tube of green paint. Oh, I have some in the studio, but they're in a drawer I haven't opened for a long time. I'm mixing all my greens with black and yellow,
Yeah.
and then warming them or cooling them with blues or red. But a lot of my paintings actually are done with 5 tubes of paint,
There
five
you
colors.
go. You didn't
Yeah.
mention like burn or raw umber, which I see a lot of those kind of really darker muted tones in your paintings, but you're getting to that by mixing, it sounds like.
Well, one of the colors that I use that is pre-mixed is Van Dyke brown. And so it's yellow, blue, red, black, Van Dyke brown, and I don't use white. I use what's called umber foundation, and it's
Huh.
like a parchment. I find that by substituting that for white,
Yeah.
my paintings have sort of a warmer, more nostalgic feel to them,
Yeah.
and that resonates with me because I'm just nostalgic by nature.
Yeah. I guess. Well, they're beautiful paintings. Really, really impressive. And I'm curious, so you paint outdoors a lot. Have you had some encounters with some wildlife out there that have ended up in some of your paintings?
Oh, sure. I mean, everybody, if they find out that you've guided in Alaska, everybody wants to know about bears.
Right. Exactly.
I think bears are kind of like big raccoons.
Yeah.
They're curious. They're never going to pass up an easy meal. But if you flip the garage light on, walking out to the trash, they're going to run away.
Yeah.
And I think bears are kind of the same. You wouldn't want to corner a raccoon in your garage, and you wouldn't
Mm-mm.
want to surprise or corner a bear. But
Yeah.
I've painted. People sometimes refer to me as a wildlife painter, and I'm not really a wildlife painter. I paint often. Sometimes I'll paint wildlife in a landscape. Sometimes I'll paint people in a landscape, but I'm not really a wildlife painter. I
Yeah.
guess I call myself a sporting artist, or
Yeah.
I create sporting art, not wildlife art.
Sporting art. There you go. Okay, so let me see. Oh, Steve, I was going to ask you about your experience with Ross Purnell, the editor of Fly Fisherman. It sounds like he took you to Penns Creek, huh? And what cracked me up was the bright colors he's wearing on a Pennsylvania trout stream. What's up with that?
Well, Ross wears bright colors everywhere.
Okay.
And I asked
Okay.
him about that. I
Yeah.
asked him, I said, well, 'cause I showed up in like my Marine Corps cami, like I was about to do some sort of commando raid. And and he was wearing a bright chartreuse top one day and bright blue the next. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, if you're going to get good pictures, you got to stand out in them.
Oh, is
So,
that what it was? Okay.
because he's thinking about the magazine, and
Yeah.
what makes a photo. I mean, it's not a good photo of a angler if you can't see the angler.
Yeah.
So, and having fished with Ross, it didn't make a darn bit of difference how many fish he caught, because he always caught, just like Bob does, 2 or 3 times as many as I catch.
Yeah.
So the fish didn't seem to mind. But yeah,
They
he
didn't
always.
mind.
I learned that he always wears bright colors.
I didn't know that.
I've never seen him not wearing bright colors.
And catches fish.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes.
So, Bob, you guys have all met famous people, but I'd love to hear about your meeting with Lefty Kreh.
Oh, that's a great story. The first time I met Lefty was my first season in Argentina, and I was, yeah, as you can imagine, pretty nervous about doing a good job. And I had a fella who was bigger than life and very verbose, and kind of really thought he was something special. And but he liked to fish super heavy tippet, like he was fishing for bass. He wanted to fish like 12-pound tippet, and I had to convince him that we were getting all these refusals because the fish were seeing the tippet. And he finally went to 4X, and that was as light as he would go. And so 4X with a like a size 16 spinner.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was like mooring up the Queen
Yeah.
Mary to a dock. But we got back to the lodge that night, the two of us, and he'd caught a couple fish, but he was very frustrated about having to fish light tippet and breaking all these fish off. And Lefty had showed up with a group of anglers while we were out fishing, and of course they wanted to know, how the fishing was, and what our experience was, and the guy started going on about how this young guy didn't know anything, and he was making me fish 4X tippet, and I was
Really?
breaking
Oh,
these fish, and I was pretty embarrassed. And of course, I knew who Lefty was. I never met him, but I knew
yeah.
who I was getting, debraded in front of. And Lefty looked at me, and he kind of gave me a little half smile, and he walked over to the fella and he said, "So 4X tippet, huh?" And the guy says, "Yeah." And he says, "This your rod?" The guy says, "Yeah." And he says, "Hmm." And he says, "Hold this." And he walks over about 30 feet away and he hooks it to a fence post.
No.
And he says, no, I want you to break that off. And the guy sort of, cocked like he was a big league batter swinging for the fence. And Lefty said, no, 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 no. Just lift your rod, get tension on it, and break that off. And the guy lifted his rod slowly and he got tension on it. And he leaned back and he was grunting and groaning and he couldn't break it off.
Yeah.
And Lefty just looked at him and said, I don't think it was a tippet, and I don't think it was your guide.
Is that right?
And I thought,
great.
I love you, Lefty.
Vindicated. Did you have to go out with a guy again the next day?
Oh yeah, we were together for the week.
Oh, did you talk to him for a whole week? I'd have been like, you sit over there. I don't even want to see you, buddy.
Oh no, it was good. I mean, you learned it. You just learned to deal with that. So I think my background in family therapy and marriage counseling.
Perfect. I hear so many guys tell me they feel like they're a therapist.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh my God. Okay, Steve, you got to tell us the story about down in the Amazon. You were swimming with what?
Oh, well, everything down there, but piranhas is what you're thinking of.
Piranhas on purpose?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I want to hear this.
Well, sort of. I have to tell you, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, no pun intended, but we're fishing for pacu. And if you haven't fished for pacu down in the Amazon, it is such a great thing to do. And my friend down there, Rodrigo Salas with Untamed Anglers, I think he's pretty much the guy that's got it dialed in with that. So you're fishing with on dry flies, just like a trout water. And
wow.
And we were on the Aridi River, but what you're doing is getting on these little braided streams where the river breaks free through the jungle, and you're working these little streams, and they actually feel like you're in Patagonia. And you're casting to these somewhat skittish pacu to try to catch them. And the pacu there liked fast water with overhanging trees. You're shooting under the trees with that dry fly. You may have a dropper on it, and you're hitting these little pockets in between the waterfalls. And I had been told by this wonderful guide that I was with that we've remained friends. And Siru, he said they can really fight way out above their class. And he was right. So the first pacu because what they do is they use their flat bodies to bring you right into the current. They leap, they do everything they can. They go over the waterfalls. And it's just a wonderful, thrilling thing. So we get this pacu in this one little stream, and I miss some because they're very skittish. And he points to me and he says, "You see that fast water in the middle of the river? Now we're on the main Aridi." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's good pacu water. We got to get over there." I said, "Okay." So we start wading. Now I need to go back with the story and say the day prior, I was sitting outside with Rodrigo, and one of the clients there said, "Do I need to be worried about the piranhas when I'm wading?" And he said, No, they don't like the shallow water. They're in the deep pools. That's where they're at. So you're not going to be wading in a deep pool. You're fine. So we start walking out to the water, and it's getting deeper and deeper. I'm only 5'6", and now it's up to my chest. And I say to Siru, I said, "Hey, this is a pretty deep pool we're getting into. I think I'm going to have to start swimming." And he said, he looks back, and he's a funny guy, and he smiles. He says, "Yes, we will swim." And so we start swimming across this pool, and I say, "What about the piranhas?" And he says, "Yes, there are piranhas
in that pool." Really?
And then he laughs and he says, we'll be fine.
When you were a kid, didn't you watch like Wild Kingdom and watch why Jim separates two mating rhinoceroses? And I never forget a pig running into an Amazon stream, and within minutes it was gone. Piranhas ate the whole thing.
Right.
I've never got that out of my mind.
The day prior, I had caught piranha, and these are the big black piranha. So, but I have to tell you, I loved every minute of it. We swam back across that pool on the way back.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Man. Okay.
To me, that was just nothing but adventure. Even in the Marines, when I would get a mission, I would think to myself, yeah, I'll go. I'm probably going to live, and it'll be really cool if I do.
What's the craziest thing you had to do in the Marines that you can talk about or want to talk about?
Oh, I actually don't know. There's a lot of crazy there. And it's not really funny stuff, being surrounded by bush soldiers in the West African jungle is not
Not
a
fun.
chuckle.
That's
so,
not fun. So you've
so,
been shot at, I'm guessing.
yes,
Yeah.
but and I never got to fish there. That's the big thing. I'd like
Oh,
to go
come
back
on.
and fish.
I heard the Red Sea is amazing.
I'd like to do the Zambezi for tigerfish. So
Zambezi for tiger. All right, Steve, you say in your book, I underlined this, we need wilderness. I can't give you the context as I didn't mark it down, but what do you think about that? Why say more about that? Why do we need wilderness? I mean, I can give you my answer, but I wonder what your answer is.
well, you're going to learn my answers are long-winded because there's so much to it. I want to have wilderness even if I don't get into it. But I'm going to answer this question a couple of ways. There's two major rainforests in the world that I've recently been to. One is the Tongass National Forest and Wilderness, which provides an awful lot of our oxygen, a lot of habitat for a lot of creatures, including, and then the other one is the Amazon. And I've read so much about, like many people have, the destruction of the Amazon. But until I was flying over the Amazon in a prop plane for 4.5 hours with my buddy Rodrigo Salas, looking down, I never saw what we're losing.
Hmm.
I never realized that you can fly for an hour and a half over a pristine jungle, and then you'll fly another hour and a half in a plane and see nothing but devastation.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
nothing. No trees. Anywhere that a dirt road has reached in the Amazon, the trees are gone or it's burning, and it's been replaced by gold mines and cattle ranches to make McDonald's burgers and soybean fields. So we need, I think we need wilderness for a couple of reasons. One is the obvious. Short of the ocean, you're getting me on my ecological side here, which we are also harming, and the ocean gives us a huge portion of our oxygen. But the rainforests are really the lungs,
Hmm.
and we're killing the lungs. And I've
Yeah.
seen it in Africa, I've seen it in South America, I've seen it in North America. The other thing is, when I think about the United States and what really makes us amazing in the world, is we created the national park system.
Yeah.
We are the creators of this. We are the creators of national forests. We are the creators of wilderness areas. And now we're talking about destroying them for short-term profit. I didn't know I'd ever make it. If it wasn't for Bob White, I wouldn't have. I didn't know I'd ever make it to see the wilderness of Alaska, but I did. And I'm so glad it was there. And I want it to
Jeez.
be there for someone else.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it.
That's such a great answer. All right, I've got to backtrack just for a second. I love that answer, Steve. But Bob, going back, did I read that you hooked an Alaskan brown bear on a fly rod? Is this true?
Well, I didn't actually hook it, but my the fellow who owned the lodge and I, after we got done with all the fishing assignments and everything had quieted down, we would often go out in the Narrows on a little homemade pontoon boat and fish for
Yeah.
grayling, dry flies. And there was a sow and a couple of cubs walking the beach on the other shoreline, and we were probably 70 feet away, but we were out in the water. And my my boss says, "Hey, what's that rod you're using?" I said, "Oh, it's a new Orvis 5 weight." He goes, "What kind of fly you have?" I said, "It's a little copper nymph that I'm working on." And he says, "Can I borrow that?" I said, "Sure." I thought he was going to catch a fish. Well, he,
Yeah.
he strips a bunch of line out of the reel and he throws a beautiful double haul and he lays the tippet over the rump of the sow, and
What?
she kind of startles and
What?
she kind of startles, but she doesn't feel anything, and so she goes back to looking for food, and her cubs are playing around, and then he kind of gently sets the hook into their fur gets kind of
Come on.
tangled, and he puts a little pressure on the hair, and she kind of woofs and she runs over the hill with cubs in tow, and
Really?
my rod is bent double and my reel is screaming, and of
Really?
course, it was 5x tippet. She broke it off as soon as she got into the brush, and I'm sitting there sweating a gallon of water, thinking I'm going to need a new rod, reel, and line. And my boss
Yeah.
reels it in. He says, says, that's a pretty good fly. He says, but you really need to work on your knots.
I did. Don't tell me you had a little squiggly when you got it back, did you? I hope not. Man,
That's
lost
a
a big one.
true story, Steve. True story.
I think I don't know what I would have done. I might have been upset with that guy. That does not, like we used to say when we were kids. That's not cool. Hooking a bear.
I don't know. I was waiting.
Look,
I wanted to hear if you landed it, Bob.
Yeah,
look at the story I have to tell. That's
I
worth
know.
a
Well, right.
rock.
You needed a bigger net, no doubt. So, oh man. All right, Bob. Favorite shore lunch.
Oh boy. I love making shore lunch, and I love fishing, I love guiding, but shore lunch it's like the perfect break in the middle of the day, and it's time to recharge, and there's nothing quite like it. My favorite, I like salmon, and I'll cut it, skin the fillets, cut strips about 3/4 of an inch wide across the grain, and roll it in egg, and then salt and pepper and Italian breadcrumbs, seasoned breadcrumbs,
Huh.
and I'll fry that in olive oil. And most people would never do that because you go to the store and you buy a wild caught Alaskan
Right.
salmon fillet, and the last thing you're going to do is fry it. But boy, let me tell you, it's some kind of good.
You do that like you do all this on a shore lunch as a guy.
Oh, sure. And then I would do spinach greens, fried spinach greens with bacon bits and vinegar, and then cornbread. We did jalapeno cornbread in my Dutch oven. So that was it. That was fried salmon, like salmon fingers, and
Yeah.
spinach greens, and cornbread for dessert. That was one of my favorites.
Sounds like a southern thing with greens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of times there was a lot of spinach around the lodge that didn't get eaten, and there was canned spinach that none of the guides would like to eat. So, I was just trying to utilize what we had a lot
Are
of.
you? Oh my gosh. What about you, Steve? What's your favorite shore lunch?
Well, first of all, I'm a little bit of a coma right now because that sounded so good. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make that tonight for dinner.
I'm going to give you again two answers because the first thing I have to say is before my daughter grew up, other than my dad, the only person I ever fished with was my daughter. And so the first thing I have to do is to answer this question, I have to exclude the incredibly important to me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches her and I had
Hey,
through
man,
the
those are
years on
great.
the side of the various Texas Hill Country streams.
Have you ever fried a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? A fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
No, I have not. But
Oh,
if I
dude,
was
those
with
are
Bob,
good.
we would get this done. So I'm going to tell you that excluding my peanut butter and jellies with my daughter or us going out for tacos
Okay.
and things afterwards, I have to say, and I'm not just making this up, and Bob, this might shock you. It's in the book that's coming out. Bob and I had a day on the Majeo, but it was actually how do you pronounce the name? Is it Hueca?
Wakama wheel, the
It's
Spring Creek.
Waka.
Yeah, the Waka.
Yeah, the Spring Creek. We were on the Spring Creek on the Majeo, and it was one of the most magical days of my life. And fish were caught. They were picky, and the fish were caught. But we ended up in this beautiful grove of monkey puzzle trees up by the mountains with the volcano off in the distance, covered in snow. And we're having lunch there. You remember this, right, Bob?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We had little tumblers of red wine and all this fantastic meats and cheeses and various kinds of Argentine foods and we had this picnic here while there's parrots flying in the trees and the river going by and the volcano. It's the whole thing. And at the end of that day, as we drive off truly into the sunset, a large puma steps out onto the road and looks at us and then steps back into the brush.
Oh, wow.
That's a meal. So for me, it's the whole thing. The food was great. The wine was great. We had coffee afterwards and went back to fishing. And then it all rounded out with a sunset over the volcano and the puma. So
wow.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
It's not just the food, it's the company and it's the landscape.
Agree. Bob, most memorable place to eat in all your travels in Alaska at the end of the day on the river?
Oh boy, in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I would have to say that would be up the Grant River, which is a small stream. It's the furthest upstream in the Wood River system that the salmon can run. There's a barrier falls there. And one day we took both a shore lunch and kind of a ad hoc shore dinner with us, and we had made dinner on the stream and before we hiked out at the end of the day. So uh, that's a pretty special place to me. I really spent a lot of time on that river, really got to know it well, and it
Man.
feels like an old friend. So again, breaking bread with an old friend.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for sharing your knowledge and your life with us on the show. It was really a pleasure.
It really was.
It
Thanks.
was a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
Bob, do you have any room on any of those hosted trips you're doing that are coming up?
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, really?
Okay. We've got room we're taking a trip to Argentina before Thanksgiving, coming back about 4 or 5 days before Thanksgiving. I've got room in that. And then we do late January, the 26th to February 2, and we've got room in that week as well.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
And Steve, your next book is called what, and when's it coming out?
First, I got to say that anybody who can go on that trip with Bob needs to go. I just have to say that you deserve it in your life. So my next book is coming out September of 2026. I had the 4-book casting series that is concluded. So it's a 4-book set, and this is a beginning of something new. It's quite a journey. I start off in the place in Portugal where the conquistadors took off, which they called the end of the world. And I end up at the other end of the world, going all the way through Mexico, Central America, down through the Amazon, the Peruvian cloud forest, all the way down through Golden Dorado in northern Argentina, then all the way through Patagonia. It's quite a journey. So that comes out in September of 2026.
All right, there you
go,
go,
folks.
folks.
I will be turning that manuscript in to the publisher on November 10th of this year, which is the 250th birthday of my beloved Marine Corps.
How about that? Man,
Number 5.
There you go. All right, no pressure. Now it's out there. Everybody knows it's going to have to happen on that date. No delays.
Now I'm ready.
How can people get in touch with you, Bob?
Oh, I think the easiest way would be through the website or email, and it's pretty simple. It's bobwhitestudio.com.
Oh, that's easy. How about you, Steve?
Again, through the website. My website is just steveramirezauthor.com, or through social media on Facebook and Instagram as Steve Ramirez Author.
Yeah. And Bob, assuming you've got some social media as well?
Yeah, just Bob White on Facebook.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. I wish you both extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow. And folks, thank you for listening. We'll be sure to post. We've got some wonderful pictures. These guys have sent me some of these locations. We'll put those out on our Destination Angler website, and I always post on Facebook and Instagram, so check those out if you can. You can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shaig@destinationanglerpodcast.com. And if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again soon. Tight lines, everyone.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.